Hello, ladies and gentlemen, Jesse here. I know you're enjoying our YouTube videos. People say it all the time, comments. So like this video and subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell so you will know when we post new content. That's like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Now watch this and be blessed. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Jesse Duplantis.
And I'm Cathy Duplantis.
And we're going to have another wonderful boardroom chat around the throne of God.
Amen.
Hallelujah.
Amen.
You know, I want to talk about something. I want to get into it right away. Something that I believe that we do in our ministry, that we do in our marriage, that we do all the time.
Okay.
And we do everything to the best of our ability with excellence.
Oh, I like that.
And I like the word excellence. It just sounds good.
That's right.
Excellence, you know what I'm saying? I never forget when I married Cathy 52 years ago, I made up my mind that I would take care of you. And I did it the best I could, and still doing that, and do it with excellence. When I got born again, I just didn't want to be born again and a barely get by Christian.
That's right.
I wanted to live for Jesus in an excellent way.
Yeah, we had a term we used, 100%.
100%, glory to God. What a blessing of the Lord. I want you to go with me, if you have a Bible, to the book of Daniel, chapter 6. Daniel is actually in captivity at the time of this writing.
Right.
But you see, it don't make a difference where you are in life. God is always with you if you're a person that walk in excellence.
That's right. That's
and look what he says in Daniel chapter 6, verse 1. It said, it pleased Darius to set over the kingdom 120 princes, which should be over the whole kingdom. And over these three presidents, of whom Daniel was first, that the princes might give account unto them, and the king should have no damage. Then this Daniel was preferred above the presidents and princes. Why? Because an excellent spirit was in him, and the king thought to set him over the whole realm. Now why? Verse 4, then the president and princes sought to find occasion against Daniel concerning the kingdom. You see, people get jealous when God gives you honor. They don't like that, you know what I'm saying? They say, wait a minute, that belongs to me. No, if it had belonged to you, God would have gave it to you.
Well, they're the same spirit that Satan had when he was in heaven.
Right.
He was
But
jealous of that.
I got to read verse 4. Then the president and princes sought to find occasion against Daniel concerning the kingdom, but they could find none occasion nor fault. For as much as he was faithful, neither was there any error or fault found in him. What causes excellence in your life? Faithfulness.
Yeah.
See, when you become faithful, full of what? Full of faith. Right. Then excellence begins to work in your life spiritually, physically, financially. When you give with an excellent spirit. Not saying, oh God, man, I got to give some more or this and that. No, right. It's just an enjoyment and an encouragement to be a blessing to God.
Right, and that's the way it was when the Lord set up the offering system or sacrificial system to him. They had to be without blemish. They had to be the best.
That's
they had
right.
to be the firstborn.
Amen.
And even when you look back in Genesis, when Cain and Abel brought their sacrifices, Abel's was accepted because he brought his best, and he brought it with a good heart, and he gave God his first, where I think Cain was just resentful. He just threw a pittance.
A bunch of vegetables up there.
Right.
You know, I really believe this.
But it was more of an attitude, that it wasn't done with excellence and a pure heart.
I believe every church ought to be the prettiest building in any town.
I know that.
Because it's God's house. Now, some people don't like it. They think that's a waste when it's not a waste. It's giving God honor and glory. Now, why was the excellent spirit in Daniel? Well, number one, he was a man of purpose.
That's good.
And that's what Darius saw. This boy, if I put him over the whole thing, I will not have any damage. Because purpose affords you anchorage in the times of battle.
Yeah.
In other words, it gives you a foundational truth that you can stand on.
That's good.
And people notice that when you have excellent, like when you go to a restaurant and you have an excellent waiter or an excellent waitress, you want to tip good.
Right.
Because they care about you.
Right, and even in New Orleans, who's known for their food and their the best food probably in the world,
I think so,
we think. But there are certain restaurants that stick in our mind as having the best service.
Right.
I remember there's one place here that's called Commander's Palace. And the reason it sticks in my mind is because I know there's one or two waiters that come to take your order, but when your order's delivered, even if you have a table of 10 people, there's probably 5 waiters around that table, each with a plate in their hand, and they all set that plate down at the very same time.
That's right.
So that everybody receives their order right at the same time. You're not looking at someone else's order. That's kicking it up to another level.
That's right.
Of excellence.
And I tell you, when you have a good waiter or a good waitress, it makes your meal better. It makes you feel like you're worth something. You know, they're making you saying, hey, and they may be working for a tip. That may be true. But I mean, they want to do the best they can.
Yeah.
And the way they do the best they can is by doing the best they can for you.
Yeah, and that reminds me of Solomon and Sheba when she came and she saw all of the king's table and how the workers were working. They said there was no more. The Bible says there's no more breath in her. She was so impressed with the excellence.
Sometimes you just couldn't breathe.
Of course.
Just thought I'd say that. Praise God. Go ahead.
You're a legend in your own mind.
I'm a legend in my own mind. Go ahead, Cathy.
No, that was it.
Oh, that was it. And you know what she said? Your servants are happy. Did you know Solomon's servants were slaves? But they didn't look like slaves.
Right.
They didn't smell like slaves. They dressed super well. And Solomon treated them like human beings.
They were happy.
They were very, very happy. Your servants are happy. That's what I mean by having excellent spirit. So how do you have excellent spirit? Number one, you must be a person of purpose. Because once you're a person of purpose, excellence brings two things to you, purpose and power. But there's two things in between the purpose and power.
Right.
That's prayer and perception.
Yes.
When you understand purpose, prayer, perception, and power, then you're going to understand excellence of spirit. Notice when Jesus healed people, he didn't heal them halfway.
Yes.
He didn't heal them a quarter way. You know, how do you feel? Can you do something you couldn't do? Well, that's do better. No, he healed them all the way. Right. You see, and the Bible says that never a man spoke like this man. It says that in the King James. You know why? Because never a man lived like that man.
That's so true.
Jesus walked in excellence, and all of us should walk in excellence. When we build something here at Jesse Duplantis Ministry, we want to do it with great excellence. Does it cost money? Yes, it does. But that's all right. We want God's best to be the best anywhere.
Right.
I remember one time me and you went to a church, and I'll keep the place private. And first we were invited to the pastor's home, and it was a gorgeous home and beautiful. And we were glad for him. Wow, what a blessing of the Lord. But when we got to the church, it was trash. There was stains all over the rug. They didn't care about anything. And I thought, why is his house so nice and God's house not nice?
That's right.
Because he didn't have an excellent spirit.
Yeah.
You see, because
he didn't purpose in his heart to do the best he could for God.
That's correct.
You know, when David was had it on his heart to build a temple for God.
Amen.
The first temple here, the physical temple, they were all in the tent before then. And so God told him he couldn't do it, but his son would do it. Right. But he had a prayer, and I want to read this because I love this phrase that's used in 1 Chronicles chapter 22, verse 5.
Go ahead.
It says, and David said, Solomon, my son is young and tender. This is the King James Bible. And it says, and the house that is to be builded for the Lord must be exceeding magnifical, of fame and of glory throughout all countries. And so he says, I will there now make preparation for it. So David prepared abundantly before his death.
That's right.
So it was to be exceeding magnifical. I never heard that word till I read it in the King James.
Magnificent.
No,
there is a word called magnifical.
Magnifical in the King James Bible, and it just portrays to me that level of excellence that that was on his heart to achieve. And I believe that's the same thing. God wants us to continually excel in everything that we do.
When you have excellence of spirit or excellence in anything, you have more quality than you have quantity.
Yeah.
Now, the quality of something is way more important to you than the quantity of things.
Right. And generally, if you're determined and purposed in your heart to be excellent in one thing, it'll carry over into other things.
Right.
It'll affect other
sense.
areas of your life. And it'll start helping you to really appreciate the goodness of God.
And Darius was not a godly man.
No.
But he saw the excellence of Daniel because of God in his life.
Right.
And the princes wanted to they said, he doesn't do anything wrong. Maybe we can come up with something against his law, in the law of God, some kind of way, and to kind of put him down. But they couldn't, my God, because Daniel was phenomenal because excellence. He was a man of purpose, but he was also a man of prayer. You would find him praying. Then, my God, he knew how to do things that a lot of people did not understand. It was amazing. The Bible calls him a dissolver of doubts.
I love that.
I love that. And when you understand what it means by a dissolver of doubts,
where is that?
Look that scripture up for me. It's such a blessing. Hallelujah. Praise God. I mean, this man, right here. It's Daniel chapter 5, verse 12. For as much as an excellent spirit and knowledge and understanding, interpreting of dreams, showing of hard sentences, and dissolving of doubts were found in the same Daniel whom the king named Belteshazzar. Now let Daniel be called, and he shall show thee the interpretation.
Wow.
You see, in other words, when you're a person of excellence and somebody speaks doubt, you'll knock that doubt out of their life.
Right.
Like I had a person not long ago, they said, well, I'm just sick all the time. I said, well, your faith's working because that's what you keep saying. So you have what you say. Why don't you say what you want? And what you want is health. You see, what I did, I dissolved that man's doubts right there. I'm not bragging on myself. I dissolved it, and I did it with excellence. I didn't try to say, well, if you believe what I believe, it'll work. No, I just allowed the Spirit of God in me to flow in him because all I wanted it for him was to get the sickness out. And we begin to see immediate results because when your mind changes to believing what God says instead of what doctors say, and I don't deny what doctors say, but whose report shall you believe?
Yes.
You see, that's what I'm trying to say. When you understand that, then that excellent spirit produces that purpose. Daniel had a purpose. And what was that purpose? Not to have no damage for that king.
Right.
He was a man of prayer. He said, no matter, the king is my boss, but I'm going to pray at certain times because of my God. Mm-hmm. And then he could interpret dreams because out of that powerful purpose and prayer came perception. He knew what to do, when to do it, where to do it, and how to do it. Then from a purpose, prayer, perception came power. And when power comes, and people love power, but you must be superior to power instead of driven by it. I know I'm the head of this ministry. I'm the chief executive officer, but I don't need to show my power. I think people know that. I know that. What I do is I want everything that I live, I want my staff to have the same thing. Exactly. I believe in prosperity, not just for my sake. Right. I want prosperity because that's what I preach.
Exactly.
And quit thinking about money. That's just one small facet of it. I want my staff living good. I want my staff being healed. I want my staff walking in health. Yeah. I want everything that I have, I want them to have.
Right.
That's excellence of spirit.
That's right. Why settle for halfway when you can have it all?
There's
a lot of people remember that you tell that story, this one woman you were praying for that said, Lord, heal my cancer. I can live with the diabetes.
No, she said, I'll keep the diabetes.
I'll keep the diabetes.
That's sad, isn't it? Good. God, I'll never forget that long as I ever lived.
Like she had to bargain with God like he would do, and God is ready to do all.
But she realized she couldn't live with cancer, but she could live with diabetes. No. You see, I just told a person in my staff, and they were believing God for something, and they kind of stopped believing it because they had to do some other things they thought was more important. And I gave her that same statement that Gloria Copeland's sister gave us years and years ago. Why don't you do both?
Right.
So you can have both. It doesn't make any difference. You see what I'm saying? God wants to be a person of prayer in your life, a person of perception of life, a person of purpose, and a purpose of power. When you understand Jesus was that person of power, but he was superior to it instead of driven by it. Now, the Pharisee, the Sadducee, and the Zealot, they were driven by that power. You see, and it caused all kind of damage and things of that nature. So that's what I mean by that. There was another man in the Bible that God said he had another spirit, if you interpret it, and that was Caleb.
Caleb, spirit of faith.
Because he followed him, he followed God wholly. See, you can't follow God wholly unless you have an excellence in your life, excellence of spirit in every way, shape, and form. Right. You see, and he said because another spirit was found in him. And because he walked like that, his descendants today still own the land that Caleb told Joshua.
Yeah, and he did
this is mine.
He did it at 80 years old.
80 years old.
Even though he got the promise at 40, and he was surrounded by a lot of people who didn't believe, so it delayed his promise, but he never gave up on his promise. Yeah. He says, when he was 80, he says, I'm still as strong today as I was back then.
Yeah, and them giants owe me 40 years of rent.
Give me that mountain. Yeah. But even though he says, give me that mountain, he took possession of it, he still had to walk it out.
He had to walk it out.
Do those battles. And God helped him and empowered him because he had that excellent spirit.
Well, what made him so excellent, time would not defeat Caleb.
That's right.
Time would not defeat Daniel. We're going to throw you in the lion's den. It don't make no difference. Mm-hmm. I know in whom I have believed. I'll jump to the New Testament, and I'm persuaded that he's able to keep what I commit to him. Are you living an excellent way? An excellent way for God Almighty. When people come into your house, when people say, well, I don't have a real nice house. Let me tell you something. You may not have a huge, big house, but I want to tell you what really speaks volumes of people is if it's clean. I've noticed something about people's yards. If their yards are manicured, the grass is cut nice, it's edged, you can walk in that house, and that house is going to be clean.
Right.
Because you see, it's saying something outside of the house that I appreciate what God has given me. I take care of it. And because you see that yard, if you walked in that house, bless God, you could eat off the floor.
Right.
That was my mom and dad never had a real nice home. We never, we lived most of the time in trailers, but that was the cleanest trailer you ever saw in your life.
Yeah.
You see, and that's what I'm talking about.
And so many people, there are times when it's not perfect, but all of a sudden you clean it up and you get it straight. And if companies coming over, generally you'll clean it up,
Right.
do the best you can.
Sure.
But there are some people, they don't even care if you come over.
Oh, they don't care
if
about
it's
nothing.
a mess. They leave everything all over the place. I remember one time we went to one house, and Jesse, if he doesn't sometimes have a filter,
I'm sorry.
so if it's in his head, it's going to come out of his mouth. So he says, "What hit this place?"
Oh, it was nasty and
clothes
dirty.
all over
I didn't want to breathe in
sofa.
that.
He says,
The other day we went to get us a hamburger, and I said, well, let's just go inside. I ain't never going back. That was the filthiest place.
It was filthy.
Their employees were filthy. And I thought, what is the
I'm
matter with
surprised
those
we
people?
stayed. We should have
I'm
left.
surprised. I'm surprised we
We
did.
must have been really hungry.
I must have been. But I'm going to give a plug but I've never been to a Chick-fil-A that wasn't clean.
That's right.
The people were
Pleasant.
courteous and kind
Excellent
and nice.
spirit.
Excellence.
Yes.
That's my point.
Yeah.
And they honor God by closing on Sundays.
I've heard, yeah, that's true. And I've heard that, I don't know if it's true or not, I've heard that if you own a franchise for Chick-fil-A, the owner is required to be in that restaurant.
Oh, I didn't
So
know
I
that.
guess if the owner's present, people are going to act a little
Right,
differently.
yeah.
And so that may make the difference. Because when
Well-
we know the owner's present, when we know God's in our life, that's what I want to parallel it to. It encourages us to live a life of excellence in everything we do. We put him first place. Like if we give something away, we want it to be working. We want it to
Right.
be the best. We want to clean it up. We
Oh,
want
yeah.
to make sure it's
we had
the best.
a wonderful compliment by one of your guest speakers the other day at the church. They walked in, they said, oh my God, this carpet is so beautiful. The carpet was put there in the year 2000.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it was first class fine carpet, but our housekeeping staff keeps that church beautiful.
They vacuum it, and if there's
and
a
our
spot,
offices.
they clean it up.
That's right.
Because they don't ignore
Immediate.
the spot and walk
No,
over it
no,
like
no,
a lot
no.
of people brush the dust under the rug.
And people say, wow, you must have built that church last year, or you must have built this campus last. No.
Yeah.
But what we do is we believe in having excellence when it comes to God.
Yeah.
In spiritual, physical, and financial things, every which way,
Right,
shape, or
right.
form. Because, see, that is a testimony to the God we serve.
Yeah.
I noticed this. Cathy likes porcelain, figurines and things like that and stuff like that. So sometimes she'll go get a piece, or she'll see a piece, and you look for the excellence of it, like Meissen and who? And what's that other one from Germany? Dresden. And one
even
time
I
I
like
saw a
little
piece and I went
Landros.
like that. She said, "That's a cheap piece."
That's
Yeah.
not
Yeah, that's not real.
quality.
But when she saw it, I don't know. We went
a
to the store
secondhand
one time,
store, yeah.
and they were selling the stuff. And Cathy, you recognize how good that stuff was.
Yeah, and you said, oh, they look bad. I said, no, I'm going to clean
Yeah,
them up.
you'll clean them up. And I'm telling you what, they're beautiful. And she has them in a cabinet there in our house. And people have come and went, oh, look how beautiful these things are. Because Dresden, Meissen are excellent people when it comes to porcelain and things of that
Right,
nature.
right.
Raphael,
Yeah.
excellent when it comes to the tapestries.
There's something to be-
Michelangelo, excellent at the
Right.
Sistine
There's
Chapel.
something to be said about someone who is the best in their field,
Oh, yeah.
or best in that craft. Like, you hear about the Michelangelo, who was like probably
Oh.
the best of.
Oh, yeah.
He considered
And he didn't
himself
himself a painter.
a sculptor, but he was
Yeah.
also a painter. But you see people that do the best furniture, like we know
Yes.
in the furniture industry. There's
Yes.
like
Francois Link.
Francois Link on
Paul
his-
Samani,
Yeah,
Dasson, and Zweiner. That's all French furniture.
from was it the 1800s that they built, or 1700s?
Yeah, some of them. 18,
So
but
those are beautiful. Even
amazing.
this is not an old piece, but it's a beautifully done marquetry piece that's even in this table here that's
Right.
really done with excellence. All this inlaid
Right.
different types of wood. It's done. You could tell someone
Yeah.
took
Well,
a lot
somebody's
of time
proud of their work.
to make sure it was done. They had a vision for it, and
Yeah.
look how it's come to pass.
Yeah, I've had people. I drive a truck, and I love my truck. And to tell you the truth, it's 10 years old.
We're back on the truck.
Yeah, I love my truck. I love my truck. It's 10 years old. People think I bought it off the showroom floor last week. I keep it clean. Well, as in my people, he keep it clean, and I keep it clean too. It just looks like the day it was made. Why? That's excellence.
Right.
I just not trying to show off. I just want it nice.
Right.
You see, well, when I go preach the gospel, I want to do the best I can with excellence, spiritually, physically, financially. And I've learned to name my seed because that's excellence. That when I sow seed, and I sow it into what I call excellent ministries.
Right.
That are doing the work of the Lord, that care about what God who God is and what people think about the God we serve.
That's so good. It's so important that when we give to God, we give with excellence. So a few minutes ago, I talked about Abel and Cain's sacrifice. Right. I want to read this in Hebrews chapter 11 because it's a faith chapter.
Okay, can I say one more thing before you read Hebrews chapter 11? You know, there was 12 spies that went out to spy the land. Is that right? Mm-hmm. And 10 came back with a bad report and 2 came with a good report. The 2 that came with a good report were Joshua and Caleb. Why? Because of the spirit they had in them, an excellence thing. Now, Hebrews chapter 11, you're about ready to read, those people walked in excellence. That's why they got their own chapter. You see what I'm saying? Now, go ahead and read that.
It's called the heroes of faith.
Heroes.
It says, by faith, Abel offered unto God a more excellent sacrifice than Cain, by which he obtained a witness that he was righteous, God testifying of his gifts, and by it being dead, yet speaketh.
Was it the Apostle Paul said, I'd like to show you a more excellent way, or was it Peter? I'm not sure which one of them. But think about that for a minute when you understand. Look at Abel. I mean, you know, Abel, if you think about it, there's only 4 people on the earth at that time, of what we understand. That's Adam, Eve, Abel, and Cain. Uh-huh. Now, my God, man, and Abel just wanted to be a blessing to his God. Mm-hmm. So he gave his best. Right. He did it more excellently. Right. And I find when you look for a contractor, and I got to give honor to whom honors due. The guy that built my house was named Richie Pichon. He comes to our church. Actually, if you want to see it in English, it's Richie Pigeon, it looks like, but it's Richie Pichon because it's French. Excellent builder. You can see it. He don't do things to get it as fast as he can get it done. When he does it right, and it lasts. The same thing with those furniture makers. When they did it, that's what makes things expensive is when people do excellent work and make it rare. The other day, I looked at your iPad on Instagram, and they were showing this phenomenal diamond that was flawless. It's called, internally flawless, and color D. It was cut, color, carat. I'm telling you, it was amazing just to watch it. But who did that? Yes, you have to have the quality, but someone had to cut that right. Someone had to, that diamond would show and face up. Someone was excellent in doing that type of work. Mm-hmm. So that was more than a jeweler that could do the work, or someone or a diamond cutter that was excellence in their work. Mm-hmm. So not only was the diamond exploded in brilliance, but the reason it exploded in brilliance because that person that did that was a person of excellence.
It's so true that no matter what level it's at, or no matter what field you're in, because we're the type of music we like. We're lost in the 70s. We like the rock music.
60s and the 70s.
But still, with that said, we admire and recognize someone who's the best in their field, even in the field of music. Like if we hear opera, who we really don't understand opera, but you can tell that's a quality voice. I think we were on a cruise, and we're not a big fan of like the Southern gospel at that point.
Yeah, those quartets.
But but we had never
saw
heard the best.
A real good one.
Here we heard the best, and we were just wowed over, like overwhelmed with appreciation for their gift because it was so evident.
It was powerful.
No matter what level of music or that their craft, if you want to call it that, we recognize where the spirit of excellence was.
Not only did it entertain us, it touched our spirits.
Because you can tell they gave it 100%, and they were at the top of their field. That
wonderful opera singer passed away a few years ago, but there in Italy. It was kind of heavy set.
Pavarotti?
Pavarotti. My God, when you'd hear the man sing, and then go back further, Enrico Caruso. That's excellence. And there's a story, I may have said it before, I'll say it again. Enrico Caruso was packing thousands of people coming to his...
Those were like the 1930s
1901 and 1902. This man this guy could sing. So what happened was he was invited to go sing at a house with only about maybe 20 people and his manager. And Caruso sang with such power. Like he was in front of thousands of people. And his manager said, Enrico, you don't have to work that hard. You don't have to, this is only about 20 or 30 people. And he said, when Enrico Caruso sings, he always does his best.
Yes.
That the amount of people has nothing to do with the quality of who he is. See, that's excellence.
Right, and when you're around someone with excellence, it pushes you to want to be increase or improve your life.
It should make you jealous. It should make you want to do better.
That's right. You know, just thought of a story of, you know, a movie. It's one of the movies we've watched. It's A Few Good Men, and we like to sometimes when we watch a movie, we like to watch the special features.
The features, yeah.
And we were looking at the special features on that, and they were talking about how when they had all the cast come together to prepare to do the movie, they had a reading, and they normally would just sit around the table, and normally people would just read monotone or just to kind of get through it. But Jack Nicholson was the star of the movie, one of the stars of the movie, and when it came time to his turn to read, he gave it 100% as though the camera was running and this was the real deal. And the person who was telling the story talked about how this kicked everybody around the table way up. But, I mean, they went up to do their best. Well, it changed the whole atmosphere of that reading, which is a great example of how when we're around people who are determined to do the best, it should inspire us to step up our game as well, if you want to call it that, and do our best for the Lord.
That's what they said about Marlon Brando, that he was just they said, a lot of people said Marlon Brando was just crazy. But when that camera came on, he did such work. In other words, in The Godfather, when that camera came on, he became Vito Corleone. I mean, and the actors that were acting with it, they said they had a hard time thinking of their part because they were watching him. That when the camera was off, he just was fly by night, do whatever he wanted.
But this whole thing with Nicholson, even in the rehearsal
Nicholson too.
And that's what rehearsal's all about. And so no matter whether you got to realize that when you're rehearsing, you should do your best as well, because I know sometimes to conserve their voice or whatever and that kind of thing. But that was his commitment. And so this is a good example.
Think about when Whitney Houston sang that song, and I will always love you, Lord. I mean, how could you not enjoy the quality and excellence of her voice?
It's a gift.
I mean, that comes from God. Aretha Franklin, if you want to talk. I mean, my Lord, they would shake you. I mean, this is in the arts. And, you know, some of these great actors and actresses that really become, and directors that they just see it. It's there. It's a gift. And they will not cut. Like Cecil B. DeMille, he would not cut. They don't care about the budget when they finished it, but it was a spectacular.
Finished what?
The movie, you know, Cecil B. DeMille, like the Ten Commandments and the different things. I mean, it was just amazing. Every I dotted, every T crossed, every jot and tittle.
Right.
Jesus was like that. See, the Bible is like that.
Yeah. And I was just thinking that creation was like that. God didn't spare anything. I think I heard it say that there's like 6,000 different beetles or something like that. I mean, there's so many different types and varieties of flowers, all of them so beautiful and perfect.
Well, the lilies of the
God's
field.
creation was this way, so we need to be following his example and do our best, whatever task we've been given to do. If it's sweep the church, be the best sweep church.
You better know it.
Church sweeper.
Not a drop of dust or a spot of dust. I'll never forget one time, I remember my mama talking about how God said that the lilies of the field, Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like the lily. You know, and I'll never forget one time, I mentioned that to our chemistry teacher or whatever. And he said, have you ever seen a lily under the microscope? I said, no. So the next day he brought a lily and he put one of the leaves. I couldn't believe it. The intricate work. Now my eyes, you know, of course I was young, I could see very, very good. But on that microscope, when he brought it to, good, how God, with the least little whatever, it was just the most amazing workmanship.
Yeah, and it's like that in our body. The closer you get,
Yes.
I mean, all the little nerves and fibers
Oh,
are
it's
all
amazing.
interconnected, and the amazing thing God did when he created us.
When he created
with
it.
excellence.
And everything. That's what I'm talking about. Daniel, you will get noticed, ladies and gentlemen, if you walk in excellence, spiritually, physically, and financially. Mm-hmm. I'm telling you, you'll get noticed. And you know what? Let me just say that. You don't have to be totally dressed up to be noticed. I've seen people that could be totally dressed down, and yet they had excellence.
Yeah, and
they knew how to put their colors together.
Right.
You know how to put your colors together.
Especially if you don't do it to be noticed. If you just do it because you have an excellent spirit and you want to be
taste.
the best.
They call it taste.
And you do it for yourself, and whether other people notice it or not, you know that the Lord is pleased because you put him first in everything that you do.
I mean, it's just amazing. So you find out the gift that God has given you, and you do it with great excellence. When you say, oh, I don't have gift. No. Every person God's ever created has great gifts. You may not know where they are. You have to search them out. You see, but Darius, that king, found out how good Daniel was. He wasn't just thinking of him, you work for me, you're a slave.
Right.
He saw something there.
Right.
And what it was, purpose, prayer, perception, and power in this Daniel. You see the same thing with Caleb. You see the same thing with Joshua.
Right.
You see, now watch that. The Bible said Caleb wholly followed the Lord. You know, Joshua didn't. Good as Joshua was, God tells Joshua, you're old, and yet this land has not been possessed. But he never said that to Caleb.
Yes.
And Caleb got it all. Now, that's not a shot against Joshua. It's a phenomenal man.
Joshua had a lot more responsibilities.
Ooh, Lord,
Caleb wasn't entrusted with doing the task that Joshua was.
You know, when the Lord gave me this ministry, I made up my mind that we would be debt-free. I made up my mind that when a bill came into our offices, and since I was the chief executive officer, I would go to finance and say, I want this bill paid today.
Right.
In other words, if it got here at 10 o'clock, it was out the door by 12, going in the mail. And they would say, yeah, but you got 30 days. That's not my money. I will not hold people's money when they have given me something
Right.
I purchased. And we've kept that. And you know what? I have been, well, I'll just give you an example. If you come to Jesse and Cathy Ministries here in the New Orleans area, we live in a place called Destrehan, which is a suburb of the New Orleans area, you will find I never signed a contract to build this place. This is multi-millions of dollars. I never signed a contract to build my house. I never did. When the great camera people came with the Sony, we got Sony cameras, the Ikagamis and all. They came and left. These cameras are expensive lenses. I mean, you're talking about left it with me because
money.
they knew my reputation.
Right.
I remember before I had these studios, I would go to Cox here in New Orleans, and you had to put your money up front just so I could do my production and stuff of that nature. The first time I did it, I paid them. The second time, they said, do what you want. And I mean, sometimes I would do 20 programs. It would take more than a day to do all that, but I'm just saying. And I didn't have to, they said, just pay us when you get. Just pay us later. Why? Because my reputation preceded me. I'm not bragging at myself, but I made up my mind. I'm representing God here.
Right.
And I want them to think of me like they think of God. Because if they think of me as a person that does an excellent, that's giving God glory.
You're a reflection of Him.
Yeah, I reflect. That's what I'm not. I don't want the glory for myself. I want to give God glory in all that I set my hand to do in every area of my life. You see what I'm saying? And that's what Daniel had.
Right.
Now, even when he got in trouble, when they tried to kill him with lions couldn't touch him, buddy. God shut the mouths of lions. Look at the Apostle Paul. The Bible said he was delivered from the lion. He got thrown in the lions. Then lions tried to hurt, and yet God protected him. That's excellence, you see. And I blame. I'm gonna give Cathy a great compliment here. We've been married 52 years. Why? Because we got an excellent marriage. That doesn't mean we do everything right, but we don't do anything intentionally wrong. I mean, I don't try to just hurt you to hurt you, and you don't try to just hurt me to hurt me, things of that nature and things of that. You know, we find ways in which to, quote, compromise.
Right.
Sometimes, I mean, I'm going to believe that there's certain things in the Bible that I believe that Cathy believes differently, and she's wrong. But no, look at it. But she said, no, you're wrong. Now, we don't just come at each other, bam, bam. What happens is, I said, well, you need more revelation. She said, well, you need more revelation. And before you know, iron sharpeneth iron.
I need more light.
You need more light, like Phyllis. I love Phyllis Moore. I say, I just need more light. Hallelujah.
Yeah, I need to understand that.
It's a blessing. So when you understand what is going on here, you just do this with excellence in every which way, shape, and form. And that's what God told me to speak to you today here at this boardroom chat, that He notices excellence because it brings Him glory. So don't do anything halfway, 3/4 away. I'll never forget a preacher one time in our church said, he was believing the healing. Are you 50% healed? I got up and said, what are you talking about, 50% healed, 30% healed, and all that kind of craziness?
It brought such confusion.
It brought total confusion. I said, no. I said, God don't do 50%, 30%. By His stripes you were. Not a piece of this and a piece of that. You know what I'm saying? And I know some people think that when He prayed, He said, God prayed for this man. He said, I see people as trees. Jesus prayed for him again. Well, it wasn't on Jesus' part. It was on that man's part receiving, see?
Right.
And the Spirit of the Lord is always present. Sometimes it's not always received, but it's always present. So when we do things, and partners, you know that, I will not be lazy with your seed because you give to this ministry. And when you give to this ministry, you want me to do something with it, not just spend it on myself, which I don't do. You want this to go into full-time work of the ministry. And I mean, and that's why God still is giving me project after project. And without sounding arrogant or tooting my own horn, I do them with excellence. He told me I got a $20 million donor coming.
Amen.
I said, yes, sir. The first thing I did was, I didn't go, whoa, man, I'm going to get it. No, I know the project that God wants to do with this, and it has to be done with excellence. See what I'm saying? But what about the $20 donor? Same way. It doesn't make a difference if it's $20 million or $20.
Right.
You see, because maybe the $20 donor gave more than when the $20 million donor, it hadn't come yet, but it's coming. But you see, the greatest offering Jesus ever saw was the widow's mite. Not because she gave all she had, because she gave all her heart.
With
see, there was excellence in her.
Right.
And that's why we talk about her today.
Yes, that's right.
You see, so when you understand that, I want to thank all our partners for giving with such excellence. In over 46 years of ministry, Cathy, we've never had a financial deficit. But because that's their excellent giving. That's our excellence receiving and putting it out in an excellent way to reach people and change lives. I'll just give you an idea. Since we started this online, what do they call it, social media stuff.
Our
Watch this. We
right.
started from January 2020 to the end of September 2022. 45 million, was it 44,000, I think 352 people have contacted us in every which way, shape, or form in this ministry. We're working almost 24/7 to service that.
Right.
We want to do that. We've stepped out into the Spanish ministry.
Yeah.
550, I didn't know that till George told me that 559 million people speak the Spanish language. And they call it the biggest minority is the Spanish-speaking people, or Latinos.
Right.
Well, I don't consider them a minority. What makes you think you're a minority? I don't like that word. That means you're
that's
less.
the second most spoken language in the world, the first being Chinese. English is not even, it's even below that.
When he told me that, we've made a great financial blessing into the
well, actually, we launched
Spanish
the vision of that in this new direction with getting Spanish translation in all of our platforms, as well as
not just
on
one.
the broadcast. We had a vision to do this, and we launched it in July, and the money for it came in, and we've already begun doing it.
Yeah.
Our magazine is available digitally in Spanish, and I have a great testimony when you're ready
but before
for
you
it.
say that, it's amazing me about the Spanish people. Years ago, I used to do Spanish translation in Costa Rica. Well, I don't speak the Spanish language. I mean, I took 1 year of Spanish in high school, but, doesn't mean I know how to speak it. And I had a lot of people said that it was translated into bad Spanish. I didn't even know what that means, bad Spanish. You see what I'm saying? And because there's so many different dialects, I guess, like anything else. Well, now, so we changed that. Now, what we do when we translate that, that's called good Spanish.
Well,
we do it correctly. Am I correct? George is in our studio. So that's what I'm talking about.
Well, at that point,
let me finish my talk. See, when you understand, this is a very big project, ladies.
Right.
This is like, and we're going to increase the finances on that as we go more and more. And people are now calling in. She's got a wonderful testimony. And it's the same thing with my books. I'll never forget one time, a man walked up to walked up to me, and someone was guiding him, and I noticed he was blind. And he said, Brother Jesse, I love your tapes. I love it. But I'd like to read your books. He's blind. And it hit me. Wait a minute. I don't have any of my books translated into Braille. So I did that. That costs a lot of money. I mean, a little book this thin turns out to be about that thick because they got to touch it the way they embossed all that stuff. And that man, he called me up and he said, I'm reading your book. And it blessed me. Well, now Cathy has a testimony. I won't say it's the first one, but now that this Spanish thing is going out, and you can go ahead and read
our
what the Lord
original
said.
Spanish thing was exclusively on the broadcast. But now we're doing all of our social media posts, which are already out there. So if you have Spanish-speaking friends, you should let them know that that's available to them on Facebook. You see the posts, as well as I think we're doing some of the broadcast has already begun. But we have a lot we want to do.
Read
this
that
one's
testimony.
already coming in from
This
Venezuela.
is a Spanish-speaking person?
Yes. Let me
Okay.
read it to you, please. I'll
Okay.
get it
What's
to
the
you.
name?
It doesn't have a name.
Okay.
I'm just Spanish testimony that was translated into English from Venezuela. So it came to us in Spanish, and we have a staff in place to be able to respond to the people. That's
Right.
what's so beautiful about it. We have things in place to be able to connect with them when the Spanish audience. It says, "Blessings, Pastor. I am from Venezuela. I cried a lot when I heard your testimony in Spanish about when you went to heaven. I would like to share some of my experience in heaven. The Father told me that it was not my time and that I should return. My longing was to embrace Jesus and cry with him. I could not get up from the floor and just cried. It was like a vision that happened to me more than 11 years ago. I don't write in English very well. I believe, Father God, that the Holy Spirit will give me that knowledge to improve my English. Best regards, and the ministry is always in our prayers. It has been a blessing to our lives, especially since we live here in Venezuela. God is good. Infinite blessings to you." So they actually heard it in Spanish,
Praise the Lord.
responded and commented in Spanish,
Now,
and
Venezuela-
our staff was able to translate it in English so that we can read it today.
Let me
to you.
ask this question. Isn't that where that dictator is, that he's real hard there in,
I don't
in
know.
Venezuela? I think that man, yeah, he's kind of like communist or something like that. And yet, here's this woman sending in this beautiful,
Well, we don't know if it's a woman or a man.
Or a man, whoever. This person sending in this wonderful testimony.
And the beautiful thing about it is this chat, I believe, is will be translated into Spanish as well. So even though those of you that are listening in English or hearing it in English, we have some voiceovers that will be put on this same program, and it will be translated into Spanish.
And the only way we do that, Kathy, is through.
Is that right?
Yeah, is that right? George is in here. We do that.
George is our director of
Our
the
faithful
media.
financial partners help
Yeah.
us do that. We got so excited. We didn't take the money you sent for that and go, well, let's just go buy this or go buy that. No, we do what we say. That's excellence.
Yeah.
You cannot separate God from his word, and you're not going to separate Jesse and Cathy from our word. Isn't that a blessing? Do another one of these testimonies.
This one's from Pastor Harriet from Canada meeting, because we were just in Canada
Oh,
a
I
few weeks
love
ago.
Canada. What a
It
blessing.
says, "Our date night included excitement to be
A date night?
To be poured.
I can't interrupt you. You know, that's fine.
Yeah, but when I interrupt, y'all notice when I interrupt him, he says, "No, let me finish this." So I'm going to talk to him after the program about that. Anyway, Pastor Harriet from Canada meeting says, "Our date night included excitement to be poured into us by God's generals in the faith, Dr. Jesse Duplantis and Pastor Cathy." I never thought of myself as a general. I thought of you as a general, but thank you. Anyway, he goes
Yeah,
on to
you
say,
are.
"Our nights were made. Thank you. We were stretched in our faith."
Yeah, but how many stars do you have?
I don't know, Jess. I'll let
Since
you.
you're a general.
Maybe I have one.
Well, I think you got more than one.
That qualifies
I
me.
say, hallelujah.
Shelby
Praise the
says,
Lord.
"I just read your book about heaven. It has taken me to a deeper level in the love of Jesus."
What's her name?
Shelby.
You know, for people that don't know, I had a phenomenal trip with heaven. It's called Close Encounters of the God Kind. I wrote a book. Oh, God, man. It happened actually in 1988. We put the book out in
Well,
1995.
first you had it on DVD. You
Yeah.
preached it at Brother John Olstein's church many years ago, and we had it on
Yeah.
video.
Well,
A
if
lot
you'd
of
like to
people
get
have
it,
watched that.
go to JDM.org and just look for Close Encounters of the God Kind or the Heaven book.
And I
It'll
believe
guide you
that book
there.
is in Spanish as well.
That's right, it
And
sure
then
is.
you also, not too long, a few years back, you actually retold the testimony in our home
about
church.
2 years ago. Yeah,
And
yeah.
we put it on social media, and I think we've had over 1 million views of
Yeah,
just
it was
that.
such a
And
blessing.
this is what this Spanish that I just read from Venezuela, we had that translated.
Oh, I see,
That was
okay.
the first item that I think we translated in Spanish that we put on the post. And I think there's a time factor that we're able to translate this. Our goal is to get everything in. We're not quite there yet, but we've just begun this new outreach, this
Amen.
extended
And it's
outreach
working.
in July. So we've already way ahead of our schedule in doing
Oh,
this.
what a blessing of God.
And then this other one says from Beverly, "I am currently watching," another one about the heaven. We called it the Close Encounters of the God Kind, was one of the titles that you gave to it when you first
Right.
did the message. "I'm currently watching your Close Encounters of the God Kind with my boys. They are 11 and 9, and we're loving it. Thank you for all that you do." Isn't that
Well,
precious?
you know, I mean, and you know, I've got a lot of persecution over that, but I refused to do it because I wrote it in an excellent way.
Yes.
And God honored it and blessed
And
it.
it's blessed so many people.
And that's just one of the, I mean, if you really want to know a lot about Cathy's preaching and my preaching, you can go to,
we have a JDM app that
a
has
JDM app that does all
a lot
that.
of
And my God,
programs.
I don't know how many sermons and
I think it's over 400.
what's the name of that y'all use?
It's a JDM app.
JDM something else.
No, it's on the JDM map now. That's where all the products
Oh,
live
so y'all
now.
changed the name of that thing?
It's easier for people to access rather than going to a website or downloading something.
Okay,
I think
is
I
that
got that
right? Okay, good.
I'm just trying to wade through everything.
Okay, good,
I know
Cathy.
just a little bit more than you, but I
know,
really
yeah,
don't
okay.
know
Yeah.
as much as I should. I'm gonna have to get
She's a general.
brush up
See,
on
she's
it.
a general, and I'm a
one-star.
private. You know what I'm saying?
One more testimony about the heaven thing, because it's here and it's so beautiful. It says, I am so thankful you wrote the book, Close Encounters of the God Kind. It took my great sorrow from the loss of my brother and turned it into gladness.
Praise the Lord.
Now when I think of him, I no longer cry, but instead I wonder what he's doing in paradise at that
Amen.
very moment. Thank you.
What's her name?
Sandra.
Sandra. He's more alive today than he was when he was physically here. Isn't that amazing? See, excellence of spirit is what keeps this ministry. In all these years, we've never had a scandal. Now, some people have tried to make a scandal on me about that I had 4 jets 4 or 5 years ago, which is simply not true. They lied. And all it did was help us. People noted, first they wanted to persecute me, then they began to research me and found out, wait a minute.
Yeah.
They were lying about that stuff.
I remember
you know?
one person from Canada heard it
Yeah.
just in the news that had never heard of you before, and they said, well, who is this guy? So they went to our website, I think, or somewhere, and they started, or maybe it was YouTube, I don't know, and they started listening to a whole bunch of sermons, and they wrote us and said, you know what, I never heard of you before, but when I heard that, I went and looked at just to be critical, really. They didn't have any
they wanted to
intention
eat my
like.
lunch. Yeah.
They wanted to just see what this was about, and they said they started binge watching you is the word they used. I remember I kept that testimony. I should pull it out like one day and read it again. But and then they said that they really wanted they were called writing in, asking for prayer, and they were behind what we were doing. I think their life got totally turned around. I think they were battling PTSD or something like that.
Well, a person asked me.
Were finding the answers they needed to their problems.
I answered this way. Someone said, but Jesse, it seems like everything you touch prospers. Well, the anointing of increase is on me. You want to get blessed today? Get around me, man. I'm not bragging about that. And I asked the Lord, why did you put this anointing of increase? Everything I touch prosper, spiritually, physically, financially. Not bragging. I'm giving him glory. He said, because everything you do for me, you do it with the best excellence that you can.
Right.
And I don't mean that private. Yes, I'm not trying to show off. I just want to do my best.
Yeah.
You know, I remember when Jody was growing up and she'd go to school. I said, Jody, listen, your mom and dad want you to make straight A's. But if the best you can do in this particular subject is a C, and you did your best, that's an A in my way of thinking.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? And that really helped her.
Yeah, and I remember when you first started in ministry, that's 46 years ago, first started
Over
preaching.
46, yeah.
We still get testimony from people. Remember in those early days, Jesse, they'll say, you preach solid for 30 minutes.
No, for an hour.
No, well, the way I heard it was 30 minutes, and then you prayed for people. No, you sang for 30 minutes.
That's it.
Preached for 30 minutes, and then you prayed for people for 30 minutes. So it was like the whole package, which you gave them your whole
everything I had.
soul. And that's what they said about, what Paul said about himself when he's writing to the church. I have given to you my whole soul. He gave them everything. So that's why he was known as a man of excellence as well.
Not only did I come to give you the gospel, but give you my own soul.
I imparted my whole soul.
Yeah, you must do everything you do with the greatest. I push myself in everything I do. When I'm on that treadmill, all I got to do is hit that little button and slow it down. And my body said, slow it down. I said, shut up, you're doing this. I keep it there. Mm-hmm. I keep it there, see? And I'm not bragging about that. I do it. People say, you must love exercise. I hate it. But I've been doing it for 40 years or more than that. And God has been gracious to. But what you do, you just do good. When you make a gumbo, you make it with excellence. But I've learned something about you in that gumbo. You like to freeze it, put it in the freezer. And it's better when you take it out the freezer and warm it up. I don't know, something happens to that it all just comes together or something the other. I don't know what it is. Mm-hmm. And Cathy will do that. But the other day I had a different smell in my house. Cathy hardly ever cooks. But when she does good. And Cathy makes the best spaghetti. I'd say, swear to God, that sauce is just amazing. And she said, hey, and I thought, man.
And it's funny the way he just likes the sauce. Now, he likes the pasta, but he doesn't want it on top of the sauce on top of the pasta. So I have to put the sauce in one part and the pasta just because he wants to bite it. I like it all mixed together in the pot.
It's just good. And the other day we went to a restaurant, an Italian restaurant, and Cathy said, their sauce is good, but their pasta's overcooked.
Overcooked.
Is that
I like
right?
it. Yeah, I like it just al dente, just a little bit of texture to it. I don't like it too mushy. So it's important that all the things are correct and right.
Yes. So let me just say that we're about ready to shut it down here.
I
We've been
can't go
talking.
before I have one more testimony.
Okay, go ahead.
to read.
I don't want
This one is so good, but it's so actually I have two. I'm going to go read two of them.
Okay.
Kim from South Africa says, "Hi, Jesse. Thank you for this amazing boardroom chat. I thank God for blessing us with generals of the faith like you so we can learn, hold on, and move forward in the Lord. We love and appreciate you and dear Pastor Cathy."
Okay.
Isn't that great?
That's a
This
blessing.
last one is what I wanted to touch on. Tammy from Louisiana says, "Mr. Jesse, you were awesome when you came down to New Iberia, Louisiana. That was, anyway, we're going to be back there in November. We're looking forward to going back to Drew Roos and their church.
Drew Roos,
there.
I like
Beautiful
Drew. Hey,
church.
Drew.
Yes. The Cajuns love us. We love being with the Cajun people. It's not too far from here. It's just, how is it, like 2 hours from here? 3 hours? Two and a half?
By car, but not
car.
by plane.
Right, well, that's what I meant.
Okay.
Anyway, Tammy from Louisiana, I said that's part of it. I was there. It says, "I was there, and I want you to know that my grandson is now 22 years old. He was fighting leukemia then and was delivered from all those rotten germs and from the devil because he is a liar. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for making our dream come true, and of course the Almighty God for delivering him." Praise God. So it's a testimony about her grandson being healed from leukemia because of the prayer of faith, of praying with excellence. We serve an excellent God who does excellent things.
Oh, so I thank you today for tuning into this. Remember this, when you're a person of excellence, you have purpose, you have prayer, you have perception, you have power.
That's right.
Use those things to the best, everything you do.
Yes.
If you give, and you're giving today, give your best. That's not how much. That's your heart. See, it's not the figure, it's the heart.
Right.
Now, if God tells you to give more and you give less, that's not excellence.
Right.
You see what I'm trying to say?
And,
so let me finish that, Cathy. I'm dealing with our partners here. And when you understand that, you see, you just do this out of obedience to God Almighty.
Right.
And if you'd like to be a partner and you're not one, you just go to JDM.org. You can give that way if you want to. That's our website. You can use PayPal if you want to. If you don't want to, don't do it. But if you don't want to, please don't do it. But still watch the programs. But if you want to be a part of a ministry of excellence, I tell you what, we will reach people, change lives, one soul at a time. Go ahead, Cathy.
Oh, I was just thinking, because some people, I don't want you to get into condemnation about it. Just do your best.
That's it.
And if you determine to do things with excellence, trust the Lord to help you and grow in that. You may not be there now, but you're going to get there.
You're going to get there.
Don't give up.
Yeah, you're going to get there. Caleb didn't give up.
That's right.
And he got all his land. See what I'm saying? So this is Jesse and Cathy saying, we love you. Remember, you serve an excellent God who's given you an excellent spirit. So go today and do some excellent things. We see you again. God bless.
Bye-bye.
This media is copyrighted by Jesse Duplantis Ministries for the private use of our audience. Any other use of this media or of any pictures or accounts without Jesse Duplantis Ministries' consent is strictly prohibited.